Welcome to this edition of the Master Implementers interview, right? And this lady name is Janice, right? She's someone that I've been really interested to get to know a bit better, right? To actually hopefully to feature a story a little more, to hopefully inspire, right? To add some value to your life. So I'm very excited for this interview, this guest, right? And Janice, so thanks for being here, right? And could you share a little bit about yourself and what you do? And thanks again for being on board here.
No, thank you so much for having me here, Mark. I'm very excited to be here. So what I do now is I'm a business coach for service-based entrepreneurs, and basically I help you get more clients and more profits through mainly through the means of social media and the digital economy. So that would be a short intro.
Very short, yeah. So we'll go deep, we'll go a bit deeper into it, right? So can you share a little bit like your experience, like how did you get started to where you are? So what I always like to share, ask my guests is like you didn't wake up one day just wanting to, for example, be a coach, right? To be a business, because that's really what I call out the ordinary. So we just share a little bit about how did that maybe that desire kind of spark, right? How do you get started in this entire journey of wanting to be a coach, wanting to be helping people to be coaches and to bring your business? Just tell a bit how the journey started.
Yeah, I would say it's a great question because I actually a long time back, and especially when I was a kid, I was thinking like entrepreneurship is the worst job in the world.
Yeah.
Like, why would anyone want to do that, right? Like you want such long hours, you spend more time, you probably get less appreciated, and all these other things, right? So that's a great question, and I think my desire for entrepreneurship and what led me to do what I am doing today. It's really not like, oh, I want to be a business coach. I want to make X amount of money. Because that's not what you think when you're like 10,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, so I think it really started from like just my learning background. So like backstory is like I'm homeschooled. I never went to school for 18 years. And I think part of the beauty in that is that you really have a blank slate where whenever you're capable of thought, I would say 8 or 9, maybe you
Mm.
start thinking a little
Yep.
bit more. I always had a blank slate, right? So there's no school, there's no teacher, there's no like, this is what you're supposed to do. It was very free in that
Mm.
sense, but it was also very vast and huge,
Yeah.
right? The world, because there's like literally no limits. So I think from a very, very young age, I had to figure out like, while everyone's in school and I can see that around me, I know that I'm not in school. So it's like, what do I want to do?
Yep.
What do I want to do today? What do I want to do this month? So I actually started planning from as young as like 7. I remember as soon as I
Wow.
was able to write, my parents would give me like this sheet of paper. We called it a goal card. So it's like for the week.
Okay.
Okay? So it's like Monday, you want to do like 2 pages of math, 4 pages of English, and 2 hours of playtime. You start developing this sense of every morning I'm going to wake up and I'm going to set out what I want to do. So at the
Mm.
end, if you don't finish what you want to do and you can't get playtime, you can't blame anyone. You can't say like my mom made me do this or my teacher made me do this because you yourself, you're the one who planned it, right? So I think
Yep.
that sense of really starting to figure out what do I want to do today,
And
this
yeah.
quarter, this year, next year, and the next few years, like that really started from a very formative age,
Yeah.
which I was very thankful and lucky to have. Um, and I think throughout the years, I when I was like I think 15 to 18 before I decided to go to uni, I was really dabbling in like I would say a little bit of like social media, a little bit of advertising online, and that was when I really got exposed to like the social
Yep.
media world. I think Instagram had only been in Singapore for like what 3 years back
Yeah.
then, so I really started quite early, and after that I decided to uh, go to uni. you know um, I basically wrote into the dean actually of
Yeah.
NUS, and I think part of the beauty of growing up in such a free environment is like there's no rules.
Yep. So
So well,
just
most people might ask like what makes me think I can do this. I'm like, what makes you think I can't do this? And I always
yeah.
go like, what's the worst case situation? Like, what do I have to lose? Nothing. I literally
Mm.
have no school, no cert. So like, what's the worst thing that could happen, right? It's like people ignore my letter. Sure, then I waste like $1 on the paper
Yeah.
and so I wrote into the dean of the 3 unis that time, which is NUS, SMU, and NTU.
Yep.
And I ended up getting into all three. The thing is, I can't remember what I wrote because I hand wrote the letter.
Oh
So
wow.
so back then. So basically, long story short, is I got into uni. I wanted to prove that there's not just one way of doing things. I
Mm.
really feel very passionate about it. I feel like to get to one place, we're all different individuals, and there are many different ways to get there. So I still wanted to achieve what you can call like conventional success by proving that I can do well in school, right? So like Dean's List, whatever, first class honors, all that kind of stuff. So I worked really hard. I just wanted to prove that, hey, all of you who said that there's only this one way, like I had to go to JC or had to do this or do that to be here. Like, look, I'm here now. This is the paper. So after that, I was kind of like, okay, yeah, and like what do I want to do next? I think something that stayed consistent throughout my life, whether it's 18 free years of homeschooling, 4 years of structured uni, or even 2 years in my corporate job in tech and AI and data analytics, that space.
Yeah.
I think something that stayed consistent is I really love connecting the dots, and I really love finding like creative ways of doing things and thinking of different ideas where if we want these results, how many different ways can we get there, and what's the best way for this situation? So it wasn't me starting out wanting to be a business coach, but I think I've had feedback ever since I was a teenager. Like people would tell me like, hey, you know what? Like when I came to you, I was sharing, it could be about a relationship problem, it could be about a school problem, work problem, but it's like, well, after talking to you, I feel so much clearer. And I also really enjoy that process of bouncing ideas off someone else and being able to find solutions. I found that that's just something I like. And I always did that on the side with my friends, acquaintances, and all that, right? So it was only till I think a few years back where someone said to me, like, hey, you should really consider being like a counselor or a speaker or a coach. I was like, I didn't even think of this as an industry, like I didn't really know. I knew that it was like Tony Robbins and all that, right? But I didn't really think of it as something that I ever wanted to do until someone asked me, why not? And they're like, why not? Why wouldn't you do it? Right. And then that conversation led me to think a little bit deeper, which is like, if I really enjoy it, why not? So I decided to look a little bit more into the industry and see, how you can start. And again, the same question is like, what do I have to lose? Right. So one of the barriers to entry of starting, especially in a digital space, is literally you set up a social media account, you tell people about it, and see if whatever that you talk about resonates with other people or not, and whether or not it can help them. So I guess that would be how it started. I would say it started really with the mindset of, hey, if this thing, like I chance upon this thing in life and I happen to enjoy it, why not do it?
Yep. And what's the biggest loss, right, if you don't?
Yeah. Exactly. Rather than find like 1,000 reasons why I shouldn't do it, I'm like, what's the one reason why I shouldn't do it? And if I can't find that reason immediately, then I'm like, let's go for it, and then let's see what happens.
Yeah. So I love your story, like Janice. Like, thanks for sharing like what happened through your homeschooling days and all the way until like how do you get started as a coach, right? So there's a lot of questions to ask you, right? From just that few
in 5 minutes, not 5 hours.
I know, yeah. So I'm gonna go deeper to a little bit. So actually, I think we're gonna go back a bit more to your experience in homeschooling. But I think there's something that's gonna be, I'm sure you know, because I think you have been invited on, like, for example, on I think Money FM, right, Straits Times, just to share about experiences. So maybe just for some of the audience who might not know so much about homeschooling, right, in general, like, can you just share maybe like, besides the fact that, hey, yes, you have a bit more control, you take a bit more responsibility of how you're going to live your day, for example, right, in terms of your goal card, I think that's a pretty cool concept. But were there like some other bigger big insights, right? Big insights that you actually might have gathered and experiences through homeschooling that you felt that actually might have put you in a different, or I would say even a possibly a more advantageous position than maybe the other folks that might just go into the traditional route. Just want to share a bit in terms of your mindset. How do you think that it might have been a bit different because of your experience that most other Singaporeans, for example, wouldn't get access to?
I think that's a great question. So I think this is super interesting because to me, homeschooling is the entrepreneurship, right? When there is a blank slate and no one is telling you, hey, this is what you should do, A, B, C, D, then it becomes, do you know what to do with a blank piece of paper?
Yep.
Technically, you can draw anything, but you can also draw nothing. As opposed to me, I'm telling you, hey, draw a fish. Then you just draw a fish, right? So it can go both ways. And I think, again, this boils down to mindset. So did it put me in a different place? 1,000% yes, right? Because other people are in school for like, what, 10 years or 12 years? And I'm like, they're doing nothing, having a free slate in a sense. So it can go both ways because I'll talk about the potential downside and I'll talk about the potential upside, right? So growing up as a teenager, when you're like 10, 12, 14, 15, you're what I would call in your formative thinking years, right? So you're very shaped by the environment around you, what your friends think, what your friends are doing. And for me, I was doing something different from what everyone else was doing. Whether or not I was able to see that at 12, right, is a different question because you'll be like, everyone has the opportunity to go to school. Why am I not in school?
Yeah.
Everyone's doing this. Everyone's planning for their O levels. I'm just
Yeah.
here like I don't relate to any of this at all, right? So a lot of times people would ask you, and like I mean I come from like my background is Singaporean Chinese, so every Chinese New Year I would still come back on Chinese New Year to be like, are you ever going to go to school? What school do you want to go to? Do you ever want to go to uni? Will you ever make it to uni? All these kind of typical questions, and I never really knew how to answer them.
Yeah.
So there was a period in my life where I really thought, hey, you know what, I'm reading so many books, I'm going to the library, I'm like finding out about all these things, about cultures, about history, about science, but yet I don't know if I'm smart enough, because there's no metrics for me to be like, okay, I'm smart. Some things that I hear people say, I'm like, oh, that sounds really dumb to me, but I don't know if that's just me. And I don't know if like, I'm just living in my own world where everyone else is doing this. And I just don't relate to anything at all, right? So I never knew like, oh, will I ever be smart or capable enough to ever work in a CBD job? Will I ever be smart enough to make it to a uni? What happens if I don't make it to a uni? I'll give you a simple example, right? So I grew up in a number of countries. When I came back one year, I was like 15 or 16. I wanted to work because my grandma was sick. That's why we came back to Singapore. And I was here for more than 3 months, 3 or 4 months. And I wanted to work at like McDonald's. Okay. When I was 15 or 16 to like full-time just for 4 months, just to gain some like side income, right? At that point of time, because I had no school anyway. And the person was like, oh, you need N levels to work here, or at least O levels, full-time. So I realized that in Singapore, right? Like, I don't want to speak of the whole of Asia, but in Singapore, you can't not have a piece of paper if you want to be full-time employed by a corporation. Even something like McDonald's or Watson's or frozen yogurt, like if you want to work there full-time, you need some sort of paper to certify that, hey, okay, this person, I don't know why it's for, but you need it. That's when I realized that, like, it really hit me that, I really need to craft out something for myself. Otherwise, if I don't have this piece of paper that society accepts, and I can't even work in McDonald's or Watson's, then what am I going to do, right? If I can't find an income stream. And this is like a 15 turning 16 person that you're talking to at this point of time. So I think it can be very stressful. Having the responsibility of like, if I don't make it to uni, and there's no good reason for me making it to uni actually. Like the odds were like 0.001% in my head that I'll make it to uni. So I just assume I'm not going to make it to uni. What can I actually do? Like at 16, right? With no school, what am I actually going to do? So in some sense, it can be scary, but it also forces you to go to a place where you have no choice. Because when I looked at, and I had a choice as a Singaporean citizen, right? Like, for example, do I want to appeal into JC? I can take some entrance exam. I looked at everyone else around me, freaking out. A lot of people around me were anxious, depressed, I would say, extremely unhappy, and just basically not happy and not carefree at 16. And I was like, do I really want to be you though? Like on one hand, I'm stressed about, what future can I craft? But on the other hand, I know for sure you guys studying and getting so anxious about all these things and just not enjoying being a teenager, that's not something that I want. So I rather choose the alternative. Since this is like 100% no, then I went for the alternative, which is, I don't know what's going to happen, but let me just try to figure it out. Right. So I think being pushed to that sense of like taking ownership and starting to think about what do I really want at that age. I wouldn't say that's super, super old. I mean, that's quite young to be thinking about what do I want to do with life. So I think being pushed into that position out of necessity in some degree, because I chose to take the O levels route, put me in a place where I had to craft out for myself, what do I want? And I had to take full ownership and responsibility of it. And I shared this recently on Instagram as well, which is a lot of people say we don't want to do this, right? So if you don't do that and you choose something else, that can easily basically fall to shit or go to pieces, because the truth is like, we're so young, we don't know what we're doing, right? And you only learn through experiences, but at the start, you'll do so many things wrong. The thing is that when you do something wrong, you can't blame like the school or your parents or your teacher or your auntie or peer pressure, because there's none of that. It's literally you deciding this for yourself, and you have to clean up after yourself, right? So I think when I did certain things, and I realized, oh, this doesn't turn out like the way I want, or like I'm like, you know what, this is going nowhere and I should have taken O levels,
Yeah.
or maybe I should go to uni, there'll be thoughts that occur to me from time to time, right? And I would just have to be like, no, this is the path that I chose. If this doesn't work, what else could work? If
Yeah.
this didn't go right, why? So going through that kind of thought process and learning to take ownership, when you take ownership, right, you realize that I'm the only one responsible for it. Therefore,
Yep.
if things fall to pieces, the pieces are still going to be here. No one else is going to clean it for me. So it forces me to find a solution to either fix the pieces back together or get rid of the pieces
Yep.
and work on something new, right? So I would say the sense of ownership is really the biggest thing that I learned, because I feel like in life it's very easy to, when something goes wrong, and we don't like telling ourselves like, oh, you're bad. You're
Yeah.
bad at
Just to
something.
blame
It's
and
just
yeah.
cognitive dissonance. We don't like saying that we're not good, right? So I think understanding this concept that you have to be responsible for yourself, as boring as it sounds, really taught me a lot, because it taught my mind how to find solutions when I realized that no one else was going to pick up the pieces for me. So it's like,
Yeah.
you don't pick up the pieces, they stay in your room, you might step on them, you might slip on these pieces. It's not good for you. So you have no choice but to fix it yourself. And this kind of like problem solving, I would say, kind of mentality really stuck with me throughout, which
Throughout.
is why even with uni, it's like, okay, no one else is gonna craft my life for me. So why not let me just try? And like, if it doesn't work out, then I know that I'll find some way to find something else that works out.
Yeah. Yeah, so I love how, yes, like as much as yes, whatever you learned in the homeschooling, but it was through that logical thought flow, right? Over the years, right? That actually get you to where you are, right? So I love how you thought it through. I'm sure it wasn't as simple as you kind of made it up, because I know there's a lot of things I'm sure is going on at the back of your mind, right? And different challenges you had to face, right? But really kudos to you about taking control and responsibility at such a young age, right? Where most people in Singapore will feel that yes, right, they typically still have that crutch mentality or relying on something else for their own future. So really kudos to you right there. Okay, I'm just curious before we move on to a bit of your life in university, right? Like when you're young, right? Let's say before 18 or even before you went to university, what were some of the biggest, I would say, like influences that kind of shape your thought, right? Yes, besides your own personal experience, right? Was it like a book, right? Or was it like someone you followed? Or was it your parents? Like who actually kind of you felt kind of like shape the path for you to think and to kind of go through the path where most people would never dream of going?
1,000% my parents. Like,
Yeah.
my parents are, the fact that they chose this, like, to allow me to have choices in life, right, is something that I would say is already quite unconventional, especially for parents
Very.
30 years
Yeah.
back. So when you have a kid, you think of putting them to school. You don't think like, okay, I'm gonna let this 7-year-old choose to manage her own
Yeah.
day, right? So I think something that they taught me was that, like my mom always says this, right? You can do whatever you want, but pick one thing, be happy at it, and then do it well. So, for example, her view would be that if you want to be a baker at 15, just go and be a baker. At 25, if you keep doing it throughout the years, at 25, you have 10 years of experience in baking at 25 as a millennial. How can you not be good at
Be good.
baking? How can you
Yeah.
not be a great baker? Right? So that's her. My dad is like the one where the world is kind of like limitless in a sense. He would give me a cup. I remember this so vividly. I think I was 8 or 9. So he would give me like this cup, right? Like this mug, your typical coffee mug. Okay. He would be
Yeah.
like, write down 50 things about this mug. And then I'll give you whatever you
Wow.
want. Like, you want to go to the zoo? Yeah, I'll take you to the zoo. So it's like you think
Wow.
about a few things, right? You're like, okay, this mug is for drinking. You can put coffee, you can put tea. It's circular, it has a handle. Probably after 20, right? You really, really like struggle to find
Yeah.
things to say about the mug. But it's really to push your mental limits, because the human brain, right? It's so complex. And most of the time you might have read quotes that we only use like what, 2-3% of it or
Yeah.
something like that. You never really know how much you can push your mind until you get there. And this is the thing with athletes as well, right? You don't know how much you can push your mind and body until you're at that situation. Now, if I were to set a tiger after you in the wild, your body can take you so much further than your whole track record, right? So when you train your mind to constantly push itself to beyond your limit, then you start setting new limits for your mental capacity.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that is super useful, because in a sense, it's not that nothing is impossible, but it's like everything is possible. You know?
Yeah, I love how like
To
it was
put
your
it that
mom.
way.
Yeah, like your mom put in the belief there, right? And your dad was the one to constantly stretch you, right? To think. I think that's a great idea. That's something I could consider right down the road, like in terms of like just getting like to hone that creativity or that idea muscle, right? And that who knows, right? In down the road, it can be way more resourceful. I think that's one of the most powerful traits that anybody could have. So really kudos to your parents for that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
I really have to give credits to like my parents here, honestly.
Awesome. Yeah. So actually, I want to go a bit more to so after that you wrote your letters to the deans, right? I think there's crazy like do handwritten letters to get in and you got in. So I want to find out a bit more about your experience in university itself. Because I think yes, like you mentioned, you got a first class honor, you got dean's list, right? That's great and all in terms of academics. But I realized that you're also doing some things at the side as well, right? So it wasn't just academics for you, actually doing multiple things. So I just want to find out a little bit. I think two things, right? If you could share. I think firstly is how did you manage your time? Right, like I think there's so many things. Right, some people can't even struggling just to score good grades without anything other commitments. And then secondly, I think I was just a bit curious. In terms of like when you were started to meet like different friends, right, in university and all, right, how did they kind of react to your past experiences? But I think that'll be a pretty interesting. You'll lead to some pretty interesting conversations over there as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did I
Manage your time.
first,
Yeah.
right? So I think how did I manage my time started when I was 7. So for me, that was actually the easy part. And I mean, for uni, like at least in NUS, my experience was that, and I did 1 year in Berkeley as well in California.
Mm.
But in NUS, at least my experience was that like you can choose your modules, you can choose your major, you can choose everything, right? So and then you can also choose your lecture timings, and these things are all preset. So for me, my plan was like I squeezed in all my lectures into like 2 or 3 days,
Mm.
and then I would do like 4 full days of the week, right? The remaining four is like all up to myself to manage. And I think it's really about having a plan, right? So a lot of people like they feel very overwhelmed because they just feel like there's this constant stream of things to do. But not all readings are mandatory. Not all points in the lecture have to be memorized, like it's really being able to, I will look at the lecturer, right? And they would have this theme of like say 14 or 15 weeks. I'm like, based on this one module title, why would you put all these 14 or 15 questions? Why is it in this order? What do you want me to get out of it? And if I don't know, I'll literally go and ask the professor, why did you structure the module in this way? Right? And when you're able to understand the flow of the creator and what they want you to get out of it, because you need to remember the creator, which is the prof, is also the one who's going to set the exam questions, right? Yep. So it's important for me to understand the flow rather than just memorize whatever you say in the lectures. And that way it's more about extracting the main themes and seeing like, oh, does this reading fit into it? Or is it just a supplementary reading? Some of the readings are historical, just from this module, the readings have always been there. Maybe this prof doesn't actually relate to it that much. So if you're struggling for time, in an ideal world, you want to read everything. If you're struggling for time, then you really need to understand what's important and what's not. And this applies in terms of like your own working style as well, right? So a lot of people are like, oh my God, I have 5 essays to write in this 2 days. How am I ever going to do it? I'm like, why not start from the essays that are most important first, as in terms of the weightage, and then you work your way backwards, right? Because technically, if something is worth 15%, you could get a C for that. If you get A for everything else, I would rather get A for everything else, right? So it's really about being able to see what's important and what's not, and then prioritizing your time accordingly, rather than just trying to do everything without a plan. Yep. Like, yeah, I'm a huge believer that if like you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? It's very grandma, but I really believe in it. So in terms of structuring my time, I don't think that was like such a huge problem. Once I was able to see what's important, there are not that many things that are important, because by definition, things being important, there are only a few. Once you're able to get them down, everything else is less important, less important, and you can do them in a very short amount of time because you don't need to devote as much attention to it. Yeah,
I love it. I think that's what we share. It's not just in terms of university education, right? I think it's to do with life as well. Like a lot of people, they just go off the flow, right? They don't really have a plan, and that's I feel that's one of the most wasted things in the world, because what happens is a lot of hardworking, intelligent people, right? They are working as hard as they can. They're hustling, right? They're grinding, right? But they don't plan for it, and that's why they're not as effective as they like. They might be efficient, they might be productive, right? But if they're not doing the right things, right, like what you shared, right, you always want to extract what's the most important information, right? And that's that goes with life as well, right? And that's how they actually achieve the kind of results they want in a much using less effort, right, or less time possible. So that's great. So regarding your social life, we should share a little bit, all right, about how in terms of how do your friends kind of respond to your story, right? Just a little bit interested in just how did people respond overall, right? Just for my own interest sake as well.
I think it's quite interesting. So I had a great time in uni, but I think first of all, a lot of people thought that I was joking. Like, oh, you never went to school, haha, that's funny. Now, what JC did you come from, actually?
Yeah.
Right. So, but I think after that, when they realized it was real,
They're
actually,
like, oh, yeah.
no, actually, as opposed to today's climate, right? If you look at 6 years ago, during middle of my uni, actually, a lot of people were like, if I had known this earlier, I wouldn't have gone to school. But if I had known this earlier, I wouldn't have studied so hard and struggled so much in JC. Or some of the not so nice comments were like, what makes you think that you deserve to be here, even though you didn't suffer like us for 12 years, right? And that's valid because I know that a lot of people go through a lot of mentally challenging times and emotionally challenging times because so much of your identity is placed on grades, right? And a lot of people were probably interested to see, will this person succeed in a mainstream education system or not, right? Because I could go there and fail everything. I mean, that's a possibility. So when I entered, actually, I didn't have any plan on like excelling per se because I had no idea how it was. I heard of like all these rigorous bell curves and all these things, right? So I didn't know. I just knew that, okay, I want to do my best and that's it, right?
Yep.
And I realized that because of the way Singapore works, generally things work on a bell curve. It means that if you're the same as everybody else, you're not gonna excel
and
right? So you're either super bad or you are not like everybody else, which makes you super good, right? And I realized that my thought process and the way I was putting things together and the way I was studying, the way I was looking at curriculum, I was thinking more about the creator of the curriculum than absorbing the information. So in a sense, I was more proactive of finding out like somebody created this course. Why? Like, what's the intention? What's the result you want? And rather than just passively absorbing all the information. So that allowed me to, I guess, study in a way that was more effective, lighter on me, and also getting me better results. I think when that started happening was when the skeptical people were like, actually, how do you do this? Can you help me? You know, so I think it was quite interesting, like bouncing different ideas. But one thing I have to say that I was actually super excited to get into uni because it was like my first school, right? And then I heard, Singapore is like best in Asia or whatever. I don't know what the global slogan is, okay, for the uni here, but it's like good education, right? And I was so excited because I was like, I'm going to meet people who are so like high on life and so passionate about what they do, and all these other things. So I was super excited. But one of the biggest, I would say, initial surprises was that a lot of people were actually very jaded by the time they got into uni. It's like, I studied for so long. Okay, now I'm living in hall, I'm living by myself, and I just want to like take a break, right? Whereas for me, it was something that's so fresh that to some extent I felt like there was a disconnect between my peers. So actually in uni, I spent a lot of time socializing with the TAs and the prof. Because I'm like, when else? And also the fact that I had to save up money to go to uni, right? And my first year I got scholarship and stuff like that. I'm like, when will I have the opportunity to pay 10K a year, or roughly about 10K a year, to get access to people from like Oxford, Stanford, and all these other great universities who may not even be from Singapore, right? So I'm like, why am I not optimizing this network that I have? Right. So I spent a lot of time talking to them, and some of them came from corporate backgrounds and then moved into academia. So I found that was quite interesting. So I did a bit of socializing there as well. I think in general, like just being put in an environment where you're alone and managing your own time into like an environment where there's like 3,000 people around you every day going to school, like that can be a bit overwhelming, especially when you don't know where to start. It's not like you can connect with your JC like senior or something, or your secondary school friend, or your orientation. I didn't even go for orientation because I didn't even know orientation existed. Like it was completely new, right? So I would say it was quite interesting. I did meet quite a few good friends through going to uni, so I'm very, very thankful for that. But Yeah, it was
right?
like a fish out of the water. So it was like I just
Yeah.
structured my own life and made my own world within the chaos. Yeah.
Yeah, I love how you optimize your time, right? When talking about like instead of talking as instead of like chilling and everything, I'm optimizing my time to speak to the TAs, the professors, people with actual life experience, right? Whether it's in academia or is it in industry experience, right? So even for myself, in university, I was just more of chilling and friends. But of course, right, the being jaded from studies was definitely there as well. So it was a great great job on that. So with that, right, I just move on from your time in university, right, where actually you're way more proactive, right? You're actually studying or doing your own stuff as well, right? And then move on to more of the right now what you're doing in terms of the coaching space, right? So a very quick question just to start off this topic, so I feel a lot of my audience will be interested in. So my audience primarily, right, a lot of them they are typically stuck, right? Why I would say the word is stuck because they are stuck at their 9 to 5, they're stuck at a job, right? Or they're not so sure whether they should enter this space, right, of entrepreneurship, of coaching and all. So what would your general advice be for people who are even exploring, right, to enter the space of entrepreneurship, or is it coaching, right? It just was your advice. Do you think it's for everybody, right? What do you think they should start off with? You just share a bit of some of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, 100%. I don't think entrepreneurship is for everybody at all. Yeah, let me just put that out
Yeah.
there. Yeah, it's not for everyone. But if you're like unsure, right? Like maybe you have this idea or like you just hate what you're currently doing and you're like, I have this idea that I'm toying with. I feel like the number one thing that you should ask yourself if you are currently already employed in a corporate job is, do I want my boss's job? Because in a corporate world, right, all the resources that are given to you in that role is to groom you to be at a higher level within the same
Mm,
organization, right? um, so they are basically grooming you to be like your manager or your director one day. That's what success in a corporate company looks like. And if you can look at your manager and you can look at your director or even another up and you're like, actually, that is not who I want to be, then there, if you can be super sure about this, then there's very very little point for you to continue staying in your current organization, because why are you even moving up towards somewhere where the end goal of success is not even what you
oh,
want,
mm,
right? So if you're able to look at your superiors and the definitions of success within your organization, is that who I want to be? If it's like, yes, I want to be that person because I really admire this person, the money is good, the role is great, then yes, you should stay and you should continue working towards that. The
yeah.
reason why you're unhappy might be because you're not there yet. But
Mm,
if you can say that, no, that's not who I want to be, then it becomes, is it just this role? Maybe I should move to a different role. Maybe I should move to a different company, or maybe I should move into something totally different
mm,
altogether, which is entrepreneurship. So I feel like that one question can give you
yeah.
quite a bit of clarity in terms of, should I stay here or should I not stay here, right?
Yeah.
If it, because a lot of times we're struggling with different things. If you look at the definition of success within your company, which is your directors and all that, if that's not even what you want to be, then it doesn't make sense for you to stay. So that was one of the first
Wow.
questions that I asked. Do
Well,
I want my boss's job?
Wow, that's a great question. I think that's a very simple to answer question. Like, do you really want your boss to join? That's a very good what I would say like benchmark to see like whether would you even want to stay on for the place. So, for example, if someone says actually no, I really don't want to, right? I don't want to stay in a job. But what happens is they have some commitments, for example, right? There's some commitments, right? Or they're afraid to leave it, right? Because especially if they leave whether it's a new line, new industry, even their own career, right? Things might be a bit unstable, right? Or uncertain. So, what would you advise maybe this group of friends say? Okay, right. I don't think I really want my boss's job, right? But so what should I do next? Because I'm so uncertain, I'm so lost. What would you advise somebody who's starting out in that space to do?
Yeah, so first of all, I think that you should never leave your job if there isn't something else that you want to do. Like you can't just say, "Oh, life is hard. I don't like my job because it's stressful. So that's why I don't want my job. I want to do my own thing." Because if you think that doing your own thing is easier, just go talk to any entrepreneur. They will tell you different,
Yeah.
right? So it shouldn't be because of that. But if you do have something else you're interested in, like, you're interested in sports apparel or you're interested in selling baked goods, for example, if you really have something that you're interested in, but your concern is, I'm in a stable 9 to 5, I still have to pay my rent and all these other things. How can I start, right? A lot of people get off work at what? If you're in a regular job, I would say somewhere between 8 to 7. You get home, you have your dinner, it's about 8. Maybe you want to have a shower, it's 8:30. Most millennials sleep at 11,
Mm.
roughly around
Or
there.
later.
Let's just
Yeah.
say 10:30. Let's just be conservative,
Mm.
10:30, right? And from 8:30 to 10:30, you have 2 hours. per day from Monday to Friday. This is assuming that you don't even touch your weekends, okay? You have 10 hours. 10 hours is one full working day, right? And if you devote this 10 hours, one full working day, in 1 year, you can have so many hours of experience in this, right? You can even, if you're super intentional about this, in 3 years, you could probably have 1 year's worth of working experience baking your pastries if you're intentional about your time. So then the thing is this, right? But I'm so tired every time I come back from work. Tomorrow I have to wake up and do the same thing again. Then the question really is, do you really want to be a baker that bad? Because if you want to be a baker that bad, you realize that your actions do add up and you are basically working towards your future. If you're someone who thinks that, I'm too tired, then I just feel like you don't want it enough. You just don't like what you're doing, but you're not passionate about the other thing that you want to do. Because if you are, it would be something that you would be doing in your free time. It would be something that you are doing even when you're free and even when you're not paid and even when you don't have to, right? And so the next question I would ask is like, where do I want to be? Do I want to be a baker? Do I want to own a sports apparel store? And then the follow-up is, are my daily actions leading towards that goal? Let's say I'm in a corporate job, okay? I can choose to spend 10 hours, 2 hours each day on baking my egg tarts. Let's say I want to be an egg tart maker, okay? And are my daily actions leading towards this goal? Because if I say, oh, in 2 years, I want to be a super good egg tart baker, the only way I'll be better as a baker is if I consistently bake and consistently improve my recipe, right? If I don't bake throughout, I'm not going to improve. So 2 years later, when I find I'm still stuck in my 9 to 5 with not much improvement on the baking side, I shouldn't be surprised because I'm not doing anything. So it's like, if you ask yourself, where do I want to be? And are my daily acts and my daily actions leading towards this goal? If your daily actions are not, then you're not going to get towards your goal. You're not going to get to where you want to be. It's just a fact. And if you want to get to where you want to be, then you have to make sure on a daily basis, on a micro level, that all your actions are aligned with moving closer towards this goal. If you're not moving, I can tell you instantly, it's not because you're not good enough. It's not because you don't have it in you. It's just because you're not doing it. So obviously you're not going to get there, right? It's like a very simple thing. So that's what I would tell someone who says, oh, I have this idea. I'm really passionate about it. If you are passionate about it, then put your money where your mouth is. Invest in a course or learn something more about this industry, or invest your time, your effort into getting better at this thing, right? If you're like really interested about something, but you're not doing anything, then it says how interested you really are, right?
Wow, yeah, that's a good telltale sign for sure. Like how much action do you actually put it in? So I'm just curious for the next if you're not take it one step deeper, right, to looking into this. So what will you say for some people? They say, I do have the desire, right? I do have the passion, right? I want to do something else, right? But what happened is some people, right? They get started for 1 month, 2 months, right? And then they lose the motivation, right? Or they're not as consistent as they should be, right? So what do you think is some of the biggest issues, right, that might be driving this lack of consistency, the lack of passion, lack of interest on a sustained period of time? Because these people can tell you, say, I do have the desire, right, and I really want something to change, right, but some days I just don't feel like it. Like, have you ever faced that challenge for yourself, right? And so, like, how would you actually advise someone to overcome them?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, I feel like everybody would have their off days or down days. You wake up, you're just not feeling it, right? But I think the difference that separates successful people from not so successful people is the fact that what you're doing is really on a macro level. It's on a macro level. Your goal is on a macro level. See, I want to be the best baker in Singapore. I want to be the best marketer in Singapore. I want to be the best whatever in Singapore. In order to be better than 99%, right? You have to be willing to do what they don't do. Do you think that the 99%, so like when I face an off day, I'm thinking like, with 99% of the people on such a shitty feeling day, it's raining, all these things, would they feel like getting out of bed and doing it? No. That's the reason why I do it, because I don't want to be them, right? So I think if you want to realize that, hey, I have this macro level goal that I really want to hit, right? And if I really want to hit that, then it doesn't matter on whether I feel like doing something or not, or whether I love what I particularly feel like I love my job today or not. I'm just going to stick to it. And that's the whole thing about commitment, right? And ownership, which is that your feelings and your emotions today are not valid. are not valid in the sense that they're irrelevant to what you should be doing that you said to yourself you would do, right? So it's kind of like saying, imagine if you have a boss, right? And they're like, okay, the report has to be done by tomorrow. Do they care if you argue with your boyfriend or girlfriend today? Do they care if your dinner turned out cold because the Grab driver was driving in the rain? No, all of this is irrelevant. And if having a bad dinner, a cold dinner, and having a fight with your partner makes you feel like crap, guess what? It's not relevant to the report tomorrow, right? So the difference now is that you have to manage yourself. And you have to be this person for yourself to say that, hey, my business goals and my life goals, right? The things that I want to hit, they are separate from how I'm feeling right here, right now, because they're leading towards a bigger picture that I have for myself. So I think when in doubt, just imagine if you are your own boss. What would you say to yourself? Is this relevant? Right. And then I think that would give you some idea of what you should be doing, even when you don't feel like it.
Even if
And the other thing that I like to think about is we often look at success stories where like, how did this person manage to do something from like 20 years old to 35 years old and then retire at 30 being like a multimillionaire, right? Like, what makes someone able to do that versus us? Like average people, for example. And the way I like to think about that is oftentimes like the 2 hour example after work, you might think that it doesn't matter, right? But what if someone is not only doing the 8:30 to 10:30, but they're also waking up early and doing the 5:30 to 7:30 before their corporate job? That means they have 4 hours in a day. They have 2 full working days, which means they have double the amount. You have 5 working days. They have 2 full working days that they just created for themselves to work on their side hustle, right? And if you're doing just 1 hour, this is assuming that you're even dedicated enough to do 1 hour. Most people do 0, right? If you do 1 hour and they do 4 hours, it's natural that their progress might be 4 times faster than you, right? So let's say you take 5 years to do, they take 5 years to do something. It might take you 20 years.
Yeah. Wow.
That is quite scary in the long run because you realize that consistency does add up. And this is the reason why some people achieve things from 20 to 30. Other people can achieve the same thing from 20 to 50 or 20 to 60. And when you realize that your actions today, right, does contribute to your future and does contribute to where you're going to be at 30, 40, 50, 60, then I think that's quite a good wake up call if you say, hey, I really want to do this, but I'm not doing it because it's just one day, right? No, it's not just one day. It all adds up. And if you're spending this 1 hour, someone's spending 4 hours, don't spend that 1 hour and think, oh, other people are doing 0. Other people are doing 5 minutes. Like, you don't aim to be the worst, right? You don't aim to be better than the worst. You want to aim to be the best. And so in that sense, when I look at the macro level, that really propels me to be like, what I do today matters. And I have to show up. And regardless of whether I feel like it, or I'm in a bad mood, or it's raining, or it's shining, like it's irrelevant to the goals that I pre-committed myself to, right? To show up. And that's gonna get me to where I want to be.
Wow, I love it, right? I think the 2 things you share, I think number 1 is doing it even when you don't feel like it, right? And using your own boss as a way. So I always like to remind my guys, remind my coaches, right? They say, hey, right, that actually the most important time to do is, right, is when you don't feel like doing it, right? But that's when a lot of people, majority of people just stop doing it, right? Wow, if you just take that 1 extra step, right, it can be way further ahead. And then secondly, I think what you shared about the fact that it all adds up, right? The fact that if you just have 1, 2 more hours than everybody else a day, right, can actually add up to you achieving your goals, right? Even like 10, 20, 30 years, right, earlier than the majority of people. So I love that frame, right? So in the interest of time, right, I'm going to ask you 2 more final big questions, right, which I'm really interested in your answers to. So I think the next one, right, is just right now, actually, you launched your coaching business for quite a while, right? I'm sure you have quite a number of coaches, a number of experience. So just want to find out from your experience, right, even though I think you've covered a little bit based on your previous responses, like what do you think, right, are some of the differences in the characteristics and traits, right, from the students that actually achieve way faster success, way better, way bigger success than those that might be a bit slower, might be a bit more stuck, right? And so what do you think are some of the specific traits, observations, or the characteristics of the students that actually achieve way faster and better results than those that might not be at the area of where they were like right now?
I think it would revolve around 2 words. So one is action and one is fear. They're on the opposite ends of the spectrum. If you're super scared, you're not going to take action because you're going to fear that, you know, other people are going to see me this way, or, you know, what if I don't succeed, and so on and so forth. I could go on forever. But the people who really are able to see results are the people who absorb something and act on it, um, immediately, actually, or even before they're asked to, right? And I think this really stems from an intrinsic motivation. When you internalize that, hey, this really is something that I want to do, and when you can look at fear as nothing but something that's on the way towards helping you get towards your goal, then there's no reason why you shouldn't take action. Whereas those who are crippled by, I know I should do IG Live, or I know I should do this, but I'm not doing it. And then finding all sorts of excuses. Oh, this week I'm busy. Oh, this week I already signed someone. So, you know,
Yep.
I think I'm good for KPIs. Like, it doesn't work that way, because if you don't constantly push yourself to take action, again, you move at a slower speed, right? And you shouldn't just compare yourself to the people around you, but even you yourself. Like, you really never know your true potential until you take action and you realize that, wow, by me taking action, I'm actually having so many things. Some of the times, I think most of the times, the thing that you're most afraid of doing is the thing that you should be doing. I think you would have heard of this phrase before. And the reason why is because most of the time, the reason why we don't take action on something is because we're scared. I don't know whether it's like scared of fear of judgment, or just like, I'm not good at doing this, other people are so much better. And a lot of times it's something that we don't have experience in. That's why we're scared, because we haven't done it before and we don't
Yep.
know what the outcome is going to be, right? The fear of the unknown. And a lot of people have this question, especially as millennials, right? Or especially as new entrepreneurs starting out, saying like, oh, I can't take action, you know, I can't take action to talk to this client because I don't have the experience, right?
Yep.
But then everyone starts out from zero. So it becomes a chicken and egg issue of, I need to have clients first, then I can have experience, then I can do my IG Live. Or do I do my IG Live first? So I have that experience of the IG Live, which will then get me more clients and feed back into the circle. So I think whenever you feel stuck, you have to realize that at some point you just have to start. And if you just have to start and 99% of that IG Live goes wrong, that's okay. What is the 1% that goes right? Plus, you have the 99% that went wrong that you now know, I should never do this again. So the next time you do it, you know not to do the 99 and you know to do the 1%, right? So then your 99% will change most often into something better, right? And if you're okay with failing and okay with asking for feedback, it just means that you do something and you know it's not going to be perfect, and you're okay with that as long as you can extract what went wrong, what went right, so that I can replicate it, what went wrong so that I can never do this again. And that's how you gain experience, right? Now you have this experience of, these are the wrong things, these are the right things, and how am I able to best carry it out next time? So I feel like the people who are not afraid or are able to tweak your view of fear in a sense that this is just a lesson that I can learn. And I like to view it as like, let me show you. So if you look at a success here, right, at the top,
Okay.
and you're here, I like to view it as like a path where on the way you're going to see a flower, a tree, and then there's failure and challenges and roadblocks. So whenever I face it, I'm just like, oh yeah, this just means I'm one step closer to success. So you're almost like, yay, you know, because you want to go to this place, right? Which is whatever your idea of success. And you're on your way there. So on the map, someone tells you like, in order to get to success, you'll see this flower. So you're like, yeah, that's it. That's the tree. That's the failure. That's the roadblock. So on the way, you're like recognizing these things as things that you should see and things that you want to see, because it only means that you are walking on this track that you want to be. So I think if you can see that and you almost go like, yes, that's it. That's what I was looking for. Then you're really able to view and calibrate that experience in a way that's very, very beneficial for your own journey, rather than being like, oh my God, I'm going to run away the moment I see failure. Because you can be on that same path, you know, and you're actually on your way. But the way you perceive the failure, the way you perceive the challenge and obstacle makes you like just want to run all the way back. And if you run all the way back, you don't realize that you're actually so much closer, like you're almost reaching. But because you're unable to snap out of that current situation and view it in a macro lens, then you just run away and kind of like destroy all your hard work before that as well.
Yeah. Wow, I love it, right? So I think like yes, as much as it like yes, it's action and overcoming fear, right? And you demonstrate courage, but it's really about how you perceive failure, right? And how you actually fail forward instead of just being demoralized, right? Every time there's a challenge or there's a failure that's coming on. And then I think one big thing, right? I think that a lot of more people need to understand, in my opinion, right, is the fact of how do I constantly accept feedback, right? Whether is it from a friend, whether is it from potential customer, from a mentor, right? How do you actually constantly seek for feedback so you can constantly improve and be better at what you do as well, right? So I think that
Yeah.
is great. And yeah, so I think that's also why we also love like being in our space, right? Being in a coaching space, right? And how we can constantly give feedback and help other people to actually become the best versions of themselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
So with my last final question, right? So I think there's a bit more just a fictional situation scenario, right? But hopefully with the intention to give a few implementable steps for some of the guys who might be a bit new, who are starting out, right? Which is that, for example, right now, right? Like today, Janice, right? Like you had to lose everything, right? You lose all your money, your networks, your branding, your connections, right? You're dropped off to a whole new, I wouldn't say island, but let's say a whole new city, right? So there's still Wi-Fi and stuff, right? But with just your knowledge right now, right? Whatever you know, right, about business, marketing, coaching, right? What would you do, right? In the first 30 days, right? In the first 30 days, right? In the terms of actual implementable steps, right, to actually not only bounce back to where you are today, but actually go beyond that, right? So instead, you have to start out completely from scratch, right? What are some of the things you do actually to get back into the game, right? To actually bounce back and go beyond where you're at right now. Just a little game that I like to play with
I
a lot
love
of my
this
guests.
question. I love it
Yeah.
because I always think about success as an there's this quote, right? Like success is not owned, it is rented, and the rent is due every day, right? So I always believe that if you cannot replicate your success, you're not truly a master at what you do.
Mm,
Like if a chef loses his restaurant, he would be able to invent new recipes and set up a new restaurant and serve new dishes, right?
mm.
So if you're
Wow.
not able to replicate what you do, then are you just copying someone else's recipe, or do you actually have the ability to come up with creative new delicious dishes for yourself,
Mm,
right?
mm.
um and I like to think that if I were to lose everything, and it doesn't matter if Instagram like just overnight doesn't become a thing anymore, then whatever the new platform is, because there will always be something, right? Then how can I get my same story out there? How can I start sharing the same things in within the context of that new platform? Maybe it's
Yeah.
more video, maybe it's more podcast, I don't know, whatever it is, right? So I think that you really have to, my answer to that would be, how well do I know the things that I teach? Because if I have the concept and the strategy, it really doesn't matter if you want me to draw it out, write it out, say it out, do it on IG stories,
Different.
like, I will be able to replicate it.
Yep.
So to someone who is first starting out, I would say to really get clear, especially if you're not like bouncing back from something, right? But it's like if you are just starting out, what exactly do you want to do? You have to be super clear on that, because the number one reason why I feel a lot of new entrepreneurs fail is because you don't even know what you're doing well enough. You don't even know what problem are you solving for the market. Who exactly are you solving it for? If you don't know that, you can do countless amounts of marketing. You can even pay thousands of dollars for Facebook ads. But what happens is that you just end up bringing all this traffic to your social media platforms, and you end up confusing them and end up
Yeah.
confusing yourself, right? So I feel like really boils down to knowing exactly what you do and who exactly do you serve. If you're super clear on these concepts, no matter where you are in the world, right, you can find the people that you want to serve because you recognize exactly how they look like, and you can get your message out because you know exactly what you do. It's when you don't know,
Mm.
then it becomes a problem, because once you lose what you currently have, you don't know how to rebuild that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So really about seeking for clarity first, right? So seeking for clarity, know exactly what you want to do, who are going to help, right? What are the problems they're facing, and then moving on to like, let's say for example, for you to select a social media platform, for example, right? Whether it's like I say like YouTube, podcast, right, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, right? And then creating as much value and content for that, and that's how you actually slowly build up your brand, your space, and then ideally to monetize down the road. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great, right? So thanks, Janice. Right, so I think with that, we end the interview. So it's about 1 hour. I think that we have a lot of intense value, a lot of intense content and conversation we had here. So thank you so much for being around. So to end off our session, right? Could you just share a little bit about where can my audience find you, right? And generally, like what can I expect to find, right? When they search for your channels and stuff.
Yeah, so I would say Instagram. I'm the most active on Instagram for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they can follow me at like my handle, which is janice.tee.
Yeah, we'll put a link.
On
Yeah.
there, I really like to give like practical, useful tips. So I don't just like to say, oh, 3 things you should do, but like maybe 3 things that you're doing wrong and 3 things you can do to rectify that, right? So you can look out for like implementable tidbits or like business information. I mostly focus on business and maybe a little bit of mindset as well. So yeah, check it out.
That's great, right? So with that, guys, thanks again, Janice, for coming on the interview, right? And for those who are watching, right, see you again for the next round of the Master Implementers interviews, right? Bye, everyone.